You know, when you think of a parrot, you probably think of this smart, tough, vibrant bird, right? But what if I told you there's a hidden fragility behind all those brilliant feathers? We're about to uncover a huge health issue that affects so many pet birds, especially one of the most popular species out there. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, just take a look at this. This is an adult African gray parrot. And wow, that severe curve in its legs, that's a condition called osteodystrophy. It's basically a metabolic bone disease, and the heartbreaking part is it's so common, but it's almost completely preventable. This isn't just about bent legs, it's a symptom of a much bigger problem, a total system breakdown.
So that really begs the question, right? How can some of the smartest birds on the planet be so vulnerable to something so devastating? Well, the answer all comes down to one single super important mineral and the incredibly complex system that's supposed to manage it.
So, before we dive into the science, you've got to understand just how big of a deal this is. It's like a silent crisis happening in homes all over the world, and a lot of the time, nobody even notices until it's way too late.
Yeah, when a bird's calcium system fails, it's not just one problem, it's a total cascade of failures. You get the kind of bone deformities we just saw, but you also get these terrifying, life-threatening seizures when their blood calcium just plummets. For female birds, it can cause egg binding, which is often fatal. And as you can see, the research points to one species in particular. African grays are especially, and I mean especially, susceptible to this.
Okay, so to really get a handle on what's breaking, we first have to understand how the system is supposed to work. And the best way to think about it is like a high-performance engine, one that's been fine-tuned for incredibly rapid response.
So calcium basically has two main jobs. The first one is the one we all know, right? It builds strong bones, gives the skeleton its structure. But its other job is just as critical, if not more so. The calcium floating around in the blood, well, that's the spark that powers everything. It's what lets nerve signals fire and muscles contract. I mean, without it, the heart can't beat, the brain can't think. It's that important. And this whole process happens in a few key steps. First up, intake, obviously. Calcium has to get into the body through what the bird eats, but just eating it isn't enough. Step 2 is absorption, and this is where vitamin D3 comes in. It's like the gatekeeper. It literally unlocks the door to let calcium into the bloodstream. Now, if the calcium level in the blood drops, that's an emergency. So for step 3, the parathyroid hormone, or PTH, acts like an emergency responder. It goes and pulls calcium out of the bones to keep the heart and nerves running. Finally, step 4 is utilization, where the body puts that calcium to work building bones, making eggshells, and keeping the whole nervous system online. And get this, here's what's absolutely wild about the whole system in birds. It's the speed. A bird can respond to a drop in calcium in just a matter of minutes. A mammal, like you or me, it can take us over 24 hours to do the same thing. This lightning-fast metabolism is amazing. It's how a bird can form an entire eggshell overnight. But it also means that when things go wrong, they go wrong fast.
So, with this incredible high-performance engine, what on earth could cause it to just break down in our homes? Well, it almost always comes down to two major failures in their captive environment.
This chart from a study on African grays really paints the picture. Each one of those dots is the vitamin D level for a different bird that was fed a pretty typical seed-based diet. Just look at that spread. It's all over the place. Some are basically at 0. Others are higher, but there is absolutely no consistency. This right here, this instability, is the first huge red flag. And here's the reason why. An all-seed dye is just a nutritional train wreck when it comes to calcium. First off, seeds are naturally low in both calcium and vitamin D3, but what's even worse is that they're packed with phosphorus. And phosphorus is a bully. It actually grabs onto calcium in the gut and forms this compound that the bird can't absorb at all. So even if there's some calcium in the diet, the phosphorus basically makes it useless.
The second huge problem is the environment itself. Out in the wild, birds make their own vitamin D3. Their skin gets hit by UVB rays from the sun and poof, they've got what they need. But what about our pet birds? Well, they live inside, usually behind window glass, which, by the way, filters out pretty much all of those essential UVB rays. So without direct sunlight or the right kind of supplementation, that gatekeeper vitamin is just gone.
And this is the devastating result. You can see on the left an African gray with those terrible deformities, and then the X-ray on the right shows you what's happening on the inside. The bones are thin, they're bent, they're fragile. This is the direct consequence of that engine breaking down. It's just heartbreaking. Okay, so the solution seems obvious, right? Just add more calcium and vitamin D. But hold on, it is not that simple. This is an incredibly delicate balancing act, And if you tip the scales too far the other way, it can be just as deadly.
This quote really gets to the core of the problem. A bird's body will always prioritize keeping the heart beating and the nerves firing. That's job number one. And to do that, the parathyroid hormone will just relentlessly steal calcium from the bones, literally hollowing them out from the inside until they just can't support the bird's weight anymore. The body is sacrificing its own skeleton just to stay alive.
But what about the flip side? What happens if we give them too much? That leads to something called vitamin D toxicosis. Basically, an overdose of vitamin D forces the body to absorb way too much calcium, leading to dangerously high levels in the blood. And all that extra calcium has to go somewhere, so it gets deposited in soft tissues, the heart, the blood vessels, the kidneys, and it causes catastrophic organ failure.
And let's be clear, toxicity is almost always caused by us, by human error. It happens when we oversupplement a bird's water, or maybe we use multiple fortified foods at the same time. A really common one is combining high-dose supplements with a UVB lamp without talking to a vet first. It's so easy to accidentally push them into a dangerous overdose.
Okay, so how do we get this right? Enough with the problems, let's talk solutions. Let's build a real blueprint for how to support this super delicate system the right way. First things first, variety in their diet is absolutely key. You want to offer things like dark leafy greens. Think kale, broccoli. Cooked beans are another fantastic source, but you have to be careful. Some greens, like spinach and chard, are actually high in something called oxalates, which act a lot like phosphorus. They bind to calcium and block it from being absorbed. So it's not just about adding greens, it's about knowing which ones help and which ones actually hurt.
This chart pretty much sums up the whole blueprint. So what do? You feed a formulated pellet-based diet as the foundation, not just seeds. You provide a safe, bird-specific UVB light for a few hours a day. And what don't you do? Don't just rely on an all-seed mix. And please never, ever add supplements without talking to an avian vet first, someone who really understands your bird's specific needs.
And this is what we're aiming for, a bright, alert, healthy bird. Strong bones, a nervous system that's firing on all cylinders, and just a vibrant life. And it's all supported by us taking the time to understand their incredible, unique physiology. All right, if you remember one single number from all this, let it be this one, 2 to 1. For every 1 part phosphorus in their diet, you should be aiming for about 2 parts calcium. Seriously, getting that ratio right is one of the most powerful things you can do for your parrot's health in the long run. And that really leaves us with one last thought. It's so easy to just focus on one nutrient, right? More calcium. But as we've seen, calcium doesn't work in a vacuum. It's part of this incredibly intricate dance with vitamin D, with phosphorus, with hormones, and even with light. So the real question we have to ask ourselves as bird owners is, are we just throwing ingredients at the problem, or are we truly supporting the whole system?